Gonna try and do this now. Um, let's see, a couple things. I'm trying to record this because there were a couple people that can't make it but wanted to, so it probably won't come out well at all, but just there's some cameras there, so if you're not cool with that, hide from them. Yeah, so this is very haphazard, thrown together at kind of the last minute. We'll see how it goes. Really hoping to get a sense of like where everybody is in terms of AI, because I feel like, as I mentioned, like I'm in this little bubble where everyone is doing like the most ridiculous things, and I'm like at this point where I can see it taking over everything. But then I talk to people who aren't in that bubble, and they're like, I don't know how to use ChatGPT, and I'm like, okay, so there's a huge gap, and it's like it seems like it's getting bigger, right? Because like things are moving so quickly. So the people that are kind of like getting left behind, I feel like are like getting very far behind, right? So wanted to put this together, see how it goes. We can keep it conversational. I'm going to try and make a couple things that might be awful, and then we're going to just talk a little bit. So, make sense? If anybody needs it, I don't know, if you want to play with stuff. All right, so I'm going to go through a few things. First, we'll kind of do a little backstory. I mentioned a little bit about kind of why we're here, but we'll do a little bit of a deeper dive. And then I'm going to make a couple things. I have like 3 things planned, or 2.5 things planned. If we run out of time, you know, maybe I'll make one thing. Maybe I won't make anything. Maybe it'll all go horribly wrong. That's totally fine. And then I want to like save like 20 minutes at the end for just conversation, like to kind of get a sense, you know, like what everybody's thinking about, what everybody's struggling with, what everybody's afraid of, hoping for, and kind of just hoping that like this is like the start of that conversation. Like, because this is a tiny little group, right? And like, I know all of you, or I've met a couple of you just for the first time. We can keep going with it, right? So like, I'm excited to like email back and forth on stuff, or like get on a Google Meet or something and like chat through some ideas, just to see like what kind of cool stuff we can make together. I think that's it. I think that's the agenda. I was going to put together a timeline of like how far things have come so quickly. And every time I did it, it was really cheesy because like a few years ago, things were really bad. Like AI was awful. You know, I think like when when it first came out, right, like it was very like prone to hallucinations, right? Like it was very untrustworthy. I was talking to a friend who's not here tonight, but doesn't work in tech, works in like kind of a engineering type field. And like they were talking about how they won't even touch AI because like it's going to put 6 fingers on every person that you try and like make a picture of. And I was just like, oh man, that's so like 2024, like that doesn't happen anymore. But like, I think a lot of people are fixated on that, right? Where it's just like, oh, it's gonna like hallucinate everything, it's gonna make everything up, it's gonna get everything wrong, I can't trust it. And I kind of felt bad. I was just like, oh, that's rough, right? Like, if you're not even like experimenting with this stuff, like, I don't know, like what's gonna happen to you in 6 months or 12 months when like everyone's using it, right? And you know, I don't know, so that kind of like was the impetus for all of this. But even thinking about like where things were like a year ago, right? Like at the beginning of 2025, you know, people were still just sort of like in my little bubble, like people were using ChatGPT and Claude just as like a chatbot, right? Like you're just asking some questions. You're almost like, it was like the replacement for Google, you know? And people were trying to figure out how to do that well, and it was I feel like around the beginning of 2025, a bunch of my friends were like, I don't Google anything anymore. And I like, it's like, okay, I'm just gonna do that too. Like I'm gonna commit, I'm just gonna stop Googling stuff and I'm just gonna start using Claude for everything. And like, as I was doing that, like it, you know, I don't mean like was, I feel like it was like, I don't know, like Claude Opus 4.0 or whatever. It was like pretty 3.5. It was like kind of pretty far behind where it is now. And it was still great, right? It was still like way better than going to some like static site that just had like some information, trying to figure out like piece everything together. And then like throughout the course of like 2025, you know, like all of my friends in tech, it started to like really rapidly get better and better. So like people were then like dumping like code problems into the chat, right? And like it would like spin on the problem. It would give you like the fix for whatever bug you're trying to solve. You copy it back into your code base and like it worked, right? Half the time. And like right around the end of 2025, like a lot of these like coding agents started to come out, right? So I feel like it's like maybe November, October, maybe a little earlier than that, but they started to get more like widely adopted, like at like the fall of 2025. And you know, people were using these to like kind of as like an interactive way to do their job, right? You're still like kind of in the code, you're still writing code, but you've got this little helper off to the side. You can ask it some questions. It can look at your project and, you know, like make some suggestions. It could like edit the files for you, but it was sort of just like one file at a time, right? But at the beginning of 2026, like this like agentic coding thing took off where pretty much everyone that I know now, I think for all of 2026, like I don't think anybody's like written any code themselves, which is like why, like, I mean, maybe a little bit, like that's a little bit of hyperbole, but it's like 90%, like you're just talking to the AI, right? And that's like, I mean, it went from like pasting things in like the middle of the year to like completely changing how we do our jobs that we've been doing them the same way for 20 years in the span of like a few months, right? And I saw a lot of people like start to like struggle with that, where like people like in tech would not want to use these agents. They like didn't trust them, and like they sort of became, I don't want to say obsolete, but like they sort of like didn't keep up with it. And now like they're really like struggling to catch up. They don't get it as much. Whereas the people that started experimenting with this like early on like really took off. And so I'm hoping that like people who don't work in tech in this group are, if you're not at the point where you're experimenting with this stuff every day, like you can get there and like become the type of person who's like sort of like teaching everyone else in your organization like how to do this stuff well. Because as I've seen that happen with like everybody who writes code, like those are the people now that are just like, you know, they're like doing like 10 times the amount of work as everyone else. I mean, they're producing like 10 times the amount of work. And like the people who aren't, like by comparison, it's just like they're just getting like left behind, right? And it's, and even in tech, like we've started to see a bunch of people getting laid off because like you don't need as many people to do the work. I don't want to get into like too much of the downsides of stuff because I think there's a bunch of different ways that could go, and especially as it like leaves tech and stuff, like I think there's a world where it's sort of positive and like everything's going to be okay. So I think the goal of this, right, is really just to get everybody here experimenting more and like figuring out what they can do, and then becoming like sort of the leader in your organization that like everybody else comes to with like their crazy ideas to be like, hey, can you use AI to fix this problem for me? And like you do that a couple times and like you build that reputation, and then everybody is just like constantly hounding you, and they love you, and it's great, right? So, I don't know. Maybe we can, maybe we can't. The other thing that's driving this came out like a week ago. Anthropic, the people that make code, they do a lot of research, and they put together this graphic. They did a lot of sort of like the economic impact of AI, right? And like the fields where it can have the most impact. So the blue, places where Anthropic sees the most opportunity for people to start using AI to do like most of their jobs. And then the red is sort of like where they're actually seeing usage happen. So obviously like in computers, it's like there, but it's not nearly as much as it could be adopted. But in places like architecture and engineering, it's like very low, right? And again, like this makes sense, right? It's like not the physical things like construction, like we don't have robots doing all of this stuff, but all of the knowledge work that like people are doing, it's like, yeah, it's like very easy to see how we can get to a point where computers are doing most of that work, right? Which is kind of scary, but I don't think it needs to be. So this was kind of a little bit of a wake-up call. And yeah, I don't know. Changing gears a little bit. So I don't know exactly where everyone is in terms of like their usage, what they're comfortable with. But from what I've seen, they're like 3, right? So like the one that everybody comes to think about first is sort of just like the chat paradigm, where you're just like talking to a bot. You're like asking it questions, you know, and I just like threw out some words here, but basically it's just, I don't know. Early in the experience, I think it was sort of just like you ask a question, it gives you an answer, and you go on your way. Chat works better if you're sort of like having a conversation with it and digging deeper and pushing on things, but like that's sort of like, in the way that people talk about it, is sort of like the most basic mode, right? The next one is sort of like where things went with coding after people were dumping code into chat and getting answers, is sort of like you have it right next to you and it's working with you in the same file, right? And I saw a lot of people in tech like kind of struggle with this, like thinking about it this way, because I think it like, in terms of thinking about how to have like an AI sort of like working with you as a collaborator is like kind of a weird shift in your brain, right? In terms of like how you think about the work that you're doing. But this is happening a lot. I know like a lot of the bigger corporations are using like the Microsoft Copilot stuff, where it's integrated into like, you know, your Excel spreadsheets and stuff, obviously with coding, but just thinking about your work as almost a thing that you're like, you're not pushing the buttons yourself, you're actually just prompting your way through the task, right? Is like, it feels weird. And I think I've talked to a lot of creatives who hate it, like they think it feels really gross, because like, I can edit this little photo way better than like a computer could, right? And I don't know, I don't think that's the case, but it won't be for long. And then the last one, which is like maybe where I'm going to focus most of the demos, or at least the fun demos on, is sort of like this agentic model, where you kind of just like describe what you're trying to accomplish, and you go away, and you come back, and it's like done, right? Which sounds a little too good to be true. And in some cases, like you come back and it's done horribly, but in most cases, like that's your fault. And like if you describe it really well, you come back and it's done like better than you might have done it yourself. And this to me feels really magical and like exciting. So I'm going to show 1 or 2 demos of that. Let's see. I don't have I'm like doing a screen share, so I don't have previews of what the next slide is. So I'm being surprised too. So before we get into this, there's like a little bit of a disclaimer. I feel like this is me all the time.
Gentlemen, I know how anxious you've all been during these last few days, but now I think I can safely say that your time and money have been well spent. We're about to witness the greatest miracle of the machine age. Based on the revolutionary Computanian law of probability, this machine will tell us the precise location of the 3 remaining golden tickets. It says, I won't tell, that would be cheating. I am now telling the computer that if it will tell me the correct answer, I will gladly share with it the grand prize. He says, what would a computer do with a lifetime supply of chocolate? I am now telling the computer exactly what you do with a lifetime supply of chocolate.
I think about this clip like at least like once or twice a week, as I'm like doing kind of like workshops and stuff with coworkers and stuff. Because it can go horribly wrong, right? And like live coding demos have always been a thing where it's just like everybody in the crowd is waiting for the thing to break and for it to all come crashing down. And now you're doing that with like a kind of a wild animal. And so I don't know how this is going to go. But yeah, so like I was thinking that we could come up with something collaborative, but basically we're at this point where everyone's a software developer now, and you can just make whatever shit you want, right? Carly, we were just talking earlier about how like everyone is doing this and it looks horrible, right? It's like because nobody knows what they're doing. But if you have a problem and can figure out what tool you can make to solve that problem, it becomes really powerful, right? You don't have to like rely on somebody else to do it, and it doesn't take 6 months to build the thing. It takes like a half an hour, or hopefully in this case like 5 minutes. But like, it just happens, right? And so I was thinking that like just as a proof of concept, we could maybe just go through and make an app that is a voting app without writing any code, without being technical, in a way that like everyone here could do. We can do a voting app. If anybody has like another thing, if anyone wants to throw out other ideas of like things that it would be fun to make, we can do that too. I'm gonna try a voting app, right? So I'm like right here, I've got like an empty directory that I'm working in, and I'm gonna use Claude Code because this is like what I'm comfortable with. If you have like a Claude account, you can use Claude Code. A paid account, I think. It's basically the chat that you would have with your little app, but in a little terminal like this. I think Claude Cowork is sort of the same underlying stuff. It just is a little bit less technical looking. But like, let's just make an app, right? So this is the part where I feel like I'm like talking to the computer and everybody's watching me talk to the computer, and it's super weird. And there's actually voice mode now, which I haven't tried. So yeah, so we want to make a simple. So this is so before I type, because I can't type and talk about different things at the same time. One of the things that I've noticed when watching people do this, or even just work with ChatGPT, is that they will often just put in a couple words like they're doing a Google search, and then like hope that it works. I found that it works so much better if you just, like honestly, if you use voice mode and you just talk out loud and type what you're talking, like the more, it could be sloppy, it can be a mess, it can just be like a brain dump, but the more stuff you give it, the better. So we want to make a simple voting app to pick everyone's favorite ice cream flavor. What should it look like? Let's give it some some style direction, right? So like what do we want this to feel like? Anything. It should, yeah, should be, we want it to be like,
I was gonna say like the old sweet nose.
Yeah.
oh yeah, okay, it should be in the style of a 1920s soda fountain with, you know, like cool green and pastel pink colors, right? And I think like, what else? What else should we add here? Like, you can pick from 5 top flavors and submit your results. And when you finish, when you submit, you land on a results screen and see everyone's votes, right, or results. Let's see, and I don't know if anyone's on the Wi-Fi. We can try and figure this out. There is a group of people here, and we need a QR code that they can scan to go to the page to vote. Go. So like, this is going to do its thing for a little while, and we can talk about it. I should have typed it and then talked about the kind of the conversational aspect of this. I've done this a little bit, and it's just going to ask me if it can do some things, and if I was responsible, I would read what it wants to do and check out whether or not I want to, but I'm just going to let it do its thing. And so like you can see, it's like building the code, it's making these files, right? And again, like Claude Cowork kind of works the same way. So yeah, sure, you can do whatever that is. You want to make some files, sounds great, go wild. And yeah, I have no idea. It's like building a server right now, so it's like a place to connect it's like to store all of the votes. And so if anyone has a computer or phone or whatever while this is spinning in the background and wants to hop on the Wi-Fi, we can see. So I'm just gonna like run it here and can see if like people can access it. So I'll just copy this over real quick here. Stickies. Put that up here. If anybody wants to try this. I tried a little demo of this and it took 3 minutes. I think I tried like a different kind of app or whatever, but I was hoping that it's something we could do in less than 5 minutes. Again, who cares? It looks very technical, but I'm not a developer, so I don't care. Ice cream vote is running. Okay, so here it is. It's live. Can we see this? I need to make it a little bigger. So, get out of here. It's live. Here's what you've got. I can't read that, but there's a little URL, and I don't, let's just go to this real quick before everybody tries to copy it, because that won't work. But I go here, ye old ice cream parlor, right? I don't know if this is going to work. I haven't tested this. There's a very good chance that it won't work. But let's try it and see. It came up. Okay, cool. Wow. So let's just do that real quick. I'll leave this here for a minute. Everybody can do the votes. No idea if this is going to work or not, but here we are.
What if I don't like ice cream? What if I like Oreo cookies?
We don't want you. You could just leave. We'll, yeah. You don't count. Okay. Here we go. And it looks like we're getting boats in, right? So like, so this, I feel like years ago, like this would have taken me a day to build, right? And like to get it to work so that everybody could do it, I'd have to go somewhere and make the QR code and then have it tested and do all of the things. And that took like what, like 4 minutes, right? And again, this is like not something anyone needs, right? Like obviously you don't need to go to work tomorrow and make like an ice cream voting app. But there is a world where like stuff like this, I think can make a lot of sense. Like build your own tools, right? Like whether that is, I mean, this is a dumb example, but if you're doing a presentation and you need to collect some votes from people, like you could go pay for some tool to do that. Or you could just make your own, and like it's gonna work, you know. Probably in the amount of time that it would take you to like set up the tool and like pay for it and stuff. There's a million other things that you could do though, right? Like one of the things I was throwing around is like, let's build a little app that helps me like prepare for a meeting, and it goes and does research on all of the people that are in attendance and gives me like a little brief about like what the company's like mission and like focus is right now, right? So like a million different things you could do, but like kind of just have like a need and like the creativity to figure out like what the thing is. And Carly, I'm really sorry that this is so hideous, but you know, it does the job, right? So yeah, so one, get weird and make some things, right? Oh yeah, okay, cool. So this one I'm excited about, and it's not as interactive. But getting into the agentic side of things, which is like, if thinking about how to build tools is a challenge, and it is, thinking about how to like empower an agent to go do your job for you while you're sleeping at night is even more of a challenge. But the first time that I got this kind of thing working, I set up this little project. And actually, I'm gonna like type here. So, this is my agent Tuesday. I've got 3 different agents. They're on the board back there. They kind of manage that and do all of their little things. But yeah. So this project actually, like I kind of set it up, and it was like 5 o'clock at the end of the day, and I like hit go. And it was the first time in like probably years that I closed my computer and I was just like, I'm not gonna think about work at all tonight. Like I'm not even, like it was the night of the 3rd grade musical, right? I closed my computer and I was just like, it was magical, right? So this is a paraphrasing here, but like this is what went down, right? So kind of told it that. And yeah, kind of like did a little bit of a deeper dive, right? And gave it a task, pretty loosely defined. I think I gave it more words than this. I think I wrote a page or 2 on what I wanted it to do. We can talk about that in a minute, but I think it worked for 2 days actually, but that's how many papers it found. It read them all. It put them into a little database that's like great for it to figure things out. And then it gave me like 10 reports to read. And let's look at them, right? Okay. So let's start with the executive summary. I don't know if I can pull this up here, do a new window, move the things around here. Oh, wrong one. Sorry. Bear with me. Where are we? This one? Yeah. Okay. So let's start with the executive summary. So to build my focus groups, did all of this. I did this full literature review on 300 academic papers, and yeah, kind of came up with some stuff. Trying to run some RCT surveys here, and you can't do it, right? You can't do like a full-on RCT survey where you present a test piece of content and a like a control piece of content, and then use a little like simulated LLM person to figure out if there's a change, if there's like an emotional reaction, right? It's not a prompting problem, it's a fundamental limitation of how these things. So I probably would have spent like 3 months trying to build this thing, and now I know that there are like several hundred academics who have like tried this and failed. So that's cool. But what it did, hybrid calculations promise. So this was like the really exciting finding here, is that I can do a synthetic RCT and just get like a really tiny human sample, 100 people instead of 1,000 people. And it's like significantly more accurate, right? And this goes into a ton of detail, basically, on like the cost savings aspects of it, and right, key people to engage. So it gave me a bunch of academics who have done like the most important research on this. There's actually another document, I think, that has like their email addresses in it. Research agenda gives me a little timeline here, what not to do, right? And then I have a bunch of other reports in here too, in terms of like ways that this can go wrong, creative applications. I wanted to just do, yeah, like the people and outreach, right? So it found like the researchers and like gives me a little background on them. So if I want to reach out to them and do a conversation about digging deeper and kind of asking them some questions, I've got like this information, which is pretty great. Yeah, and then the creative applications I think was really good too. So yeah. And so using this for, yeah, all of these kinds of things. And so like, yeah, I literally just walked away and came back to this. And it's all based off of research, right? And I think a lot of this stuff, I have a version of this where like everything is like citing the sources where everything came from, so it links to specific papers. And like this is something like at Harmony Labs where I work, like we would have paid somebody $10,000 to do like an academic literature review to go find the most important papers and read them and summarize them for us, right? But like I paid my AI agent like $50 to do it or something while I slept. And so, yeah, research, right? We're approaching like kind of time. I want to just do one more thing. We'll go quick on this one. Okay. So the one that I think is like kind of not as fun but super practical right now. Is anyone using like an AI note taker for their meetings right now? Yeah? Okay. So every like Zoom, whatever, it's gonna record a whole transcript. It's gonna save it somewhere. And a month later, when you go back to meet with that person that you met with, you can have a conversation about sort of like, hey, where did we leave off? Like what things were open-ended? And it will give you like quotes of like the actual meeting. It will give you summaries. It gives you like action items. And so the one that I'm using is called Fireflies. I think I've got a thing here, but the more exciting thing and the cheesy thing that I did with it is, sorry. Okay. Fireflies, right? Open app, right? So kind of just, yeah, like this is what happened today, gives me like summaries and stuff, but I can also ask like, you know, like, you know, I don't know, like what, let's see. I don't have a thought here, but like, we'll just take one of theirs, right? And so, yeah, like basically taking everything and kind of giving you sort of an interactive way to sort of like remember the conversations that you've had feels like magic to me right now. It's like $20 a month, worth every penny, right? Okay, so anyways, I want to switch to some conversation stuff here and kind of get a sense of where everybody else is at, what everybody else is thinking, what makes sense, what feels like doable, what feels impossible, what feels scary, exciting, fun. Anything?
Yeah, I've had.
Yeah.
I mean, so I use different AI tools in different respects, and I'm going to tell you, I don't trust, and I have had negative experiences with trying to get it to do research.
Really?
There's lots of reasons for that, though, right? Sometimes it is trying to just save you tokens because it's not, you know, and that's, or you'll just hit a limit, and that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm finding, especially with esoteric and niche topics, which I've sometimes had to do, the results are just so surface level that, true, maybe it's, you know, it's certainly not worth $10,000 or whatever, how much you would have paid. But I don't find it worth the money that I would have spent, nor the, you know, other impacts it might have.
Yeah.
It's the kind of surface level reading that you would get from like somebody who really doesn't want to do it. And sometimes I'm that guy. You know, sometimes I'm told to do a task and I'm like, I don't want it. But,
Yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate a lot of things that it can do, but I think that some of those softer tasks that require synthesis, it's not there.
Yeah. So one of the cool things about the research that like I had my AI agents do was that they took all 300 of those papers and they put them into a vector database. It's just like its own, like it kind of decided to do this, and it was like, I'm going to store all of these here. And now I can have conversations with it about all of that research, right? So I can dig deeper onto things, and like, it's, you know, I think like the reports that it gave me, especially on the executive summary, are super high level.
Yeah, they're
But
useful. Like,
you can dig deeper, right? And so that's where the conversational aspect of it comes in, and you can like, you can't do that with somebody who just gave you like a literature review report, right? You kind of like get this static thing and it's done, but like being able to dig in deeper and push on things and like say, hey, that doesn't feel right to me, like where did that come from? Or like, you know, what other papers like contradict this finding, right? And so like being able to ask a lot of critical questions, I found is really like helpful.
I totally
Curious.
agree with that. I guess it's just my experience is often that people don't go deeper. They'll accept
Oh,
a
yeah.
high-level summary, and that troubles me.
Yeah, I mean that's going to happen in anything, right? It's like you kind of have to know how to use the tools effectively to like do the thing. The other thing that I will say too is that depending on which tools you're using, like one of the things that I'm recommending here in terms of like what to do tomorrow or Monday or whatever. Don't use the free versions of any of these things because they are garbage. I mean, they're like fine, but as soon as you start paying for it and like switching to like the most expensive model, like you're getting much better results. I'm sure you know this, right? But like, that's one thing that I find a lot of people, like even in my organization, I have to like push people to be like, okay, like stop using ChatGPT. Like I have a paid cloud account for you over here. Like please use that and switch to this. And like, that's where you're gonna get like the latest and greatest, right? Like, so that's the thing. The other thing that I will say too about that is a lot of like, so in Claude, one of the things that you can do, where is my, anybody, general? Okay, So I think you can do this with ChatGPT as well, but you can kind of guide sort of like the baseline chat, right? And so I have mine like cutting out all of that stuff where it's just like telling me that I'm really smart and that I did a great job, right? Like I don't need that. Like I tell it that I want it to argue with me, right? And it's funny, like I shared this with a few people, and as soon as they started using it, they were like, oh my God, like this works so much better now, right? It's sort of just like, it wants to kind of make you happy and feel good. But as soon as you give it some direction to be like, no, like I need you to actually like push this further, it helps, right? So like I can share this out with everybody and like it's a thing, but yeah.
I'm curious with those articles, do you know how it got all of them?
Yeah.
A lot of times, like JSTOR, a lot of these research databases are kind of locked down, or you have to have a subscription.
Yeah.
For those two.
So I went through this site, right, which is, I think it has a lot of stuff. One of the things that it does, it has a few different versions of every paper too. And so, what is this? Yeah, I'm trying to find like a thing here. So this paper, for example, has a few different versions, right? And so if I give it like the PDF, this is going to be like a huge file with like a bunch of images and stuff, and it's not really it's set up in a way that like is great for people to read, right? But it's not set up in a way that's great for humans to read. So I actually directed it to use the LaTeX source, which is more of a it's.
So you gave it that name and said, like, this is the data.
I didn't give it the links. I just said, I gave it the one article, and I said, find everything that's cited this paper since like 2022 or whenever it was written, and then I directed it to use the LaTeX version, which is it's written in sort of kind of computer language, but it's kind of readable, and this is what was used to actually generate the PDF. But it's in kind of a standard machine sort of way that like is way better for the computer to interpret because it's all structured, right? So like, as opposed to like somebody just randomly being on like page 2, like author so-and-so, actually like cites them as authors, right? And so I feel like that's going to be a thing that we see a lot more of, is like where, even in terms of like files, right? Like I've seen a lot of like LLMs are getting better at working with PowerPoint. They're really bad at working with Keynote because Keynote stores things in a way that is not good it's not like open. Whereas PowerPoint is kind of like a format where it's like has this nice little structure, and any app or any LLM can kind of just like browse it and know what it's going to present. So there are like there are hacks certainly to like make it more effective. And I guess you kind of have to know those or figure those out along the way, right? Yeah. A few minutes left. Curious, like, what if anybody wants to share like how they're using AI right now, and like where kind of one of the things that I'm interested in learning is sort of like where everybody else is in terms of like comfort and like ability and like capacity, honestly. Like if your organization has you locked down and you're not even allowed to use Claude, right? Like, I don't know. I was actually going to say, yeah, like if you're not allowed to go use Claude, you should get your personal computer and go download Claude and pay for it and use it for work. And don't tell anybody. I mean, as long as you don't get caught, like you're gonna be like the person with all the superpowers. You know, I think just in terms of figuring this out and getting more shit done. So,
The thing, this is tangential to the topic change that you just said, but the thing that I've been running into, and I realized that today that it's like a real problem, like an actual problem, is that like I'm using these tools and it's completely changed the way that I work, and it's now changing the way that everyone in sort of my immediate bubble works. But then from an organizational hierarchy standpoint, like I'm having a really hard time like getting people higher up the chain to understand that like our entire organization like has this opportunity, but it's also like every other company is also having that same opportunity, and like we need to fund them to like change things or like invest time into making those changes, and just folks not really getting it is really the main thing. Even though I've been like
Yeah.
showing as many demos as I can, showing as much as I can to them. Can you talk about organizational change?
yeah, I mean, I've been feeling that, and I work in a very like tech forward. I'm like the IT director, and I'm like forcing everybody to use this stuff, and they're still not using it as much as I would like them to. I think a couple of things. Like, again, I said that as you become the person who does like has all of these like magic powers, people are going to come to you, even if they're not like the higher ups, right? Like people are gonna like bring their problems to you. You're gonna solve them, and then like you're gonna become known as that person. It takes a little bit of time. It's you. So that's one thing. I think that like fear is real though, right? Like, is that like if you work at an organization who has this lockdown or who isn't adopting it super quickly, like on one hand, like you're getting left behind personally because other organizations who are moving faster than you are learning all of this stuff, right? And so in that sense, I'm kind of like you need to spend your own time doing it because it's like career salvage or whatever to like to kind of save yourself, right? And I think it depends on the size of the organization too, right? Like huge organizations, like they're just going to be like, IT said no, sorry, there's nothing you can do, right? And that's why I'm half joking that you should use your own computer and do it, because like they're going to get left behind as an organization, right? And so if there is some other marketing agency who's like up on all of this stuff and their whole team is using it, right? Like maybe that's not going to be the case anywhere, but like there's one of them, like they're going to get further ahead than all of the other ones, right? So, I don't know, find the one that's doing it well and go work there. I think just like being annoying about it too, honestly. Just like keep doing it, keep like pushing the boundaries, even if you're not going around everyone's back and using the tool that you're not allowed to use. Find ways to push on the tools that you are allowed to use, and like spend an hour every morning like trying to push them, and then talk about it, you know.
My world is like entirely different than yours, but a lot of teachers are so set in their ways and don't want to change anything. And we had someone just show us a tool that was useful for one annoying task at a meeting. It was just like, hey, look, you can do this, and it will save you, like, and look how much easier, like, writing comments on a report card, or like, you want to say this, but how do you say it nicely? So like something super simple, and like everyone was like, oh my gosh, this is so great. And then like seriously, like a lot more people started using it. It's just like one little tiny thing that like they were like mind blown.
Yeah.
That helped with us.
Yeah. I mean, I think everybody kind of wants to make their own lives easier, right? So if you're empowering them to do that, that's a lot, and that will catch on, you know? Yeah. Happy to stick around and chat with anybody if there's anything that anybody wants to talk about. I think, and like I said earlier, like this is kind of the start of the conversation. I think if there are things that you're thinking about, or if you're struggling to think about something that like you can use AI for, like let's find 30 minutes to like sit down on a Google Meet and like brainstorm together. Like I think there is plenty of opportunity, and the sooner that we all figure it out, I think the better off we're going to be individually. And like that's kind of where I'm at. Like I just don't want people to get left behind. If somebody else at your company figures it out faster and like you're slacking, like I don't know. I've seen a lot of people, you know, become just like obsolete, right? Like it happens so quick because things are moving quickly. That's all I got. I don't know. Stick around, chat, head home, go see your fam. Play some music.
So it's not just ice cream for the future?
Yeah.
There's cheese.